Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Keith and Willow here. We're going to do some more talking about a very interesting subject. The discussion we're going to have tonight deals with parents and teachers mainly. We're going to discuss corruption in schools, which these days is a very real subject and a very unpleasant one, but unfortunately a very common one. I was raised in the Hornell school system. My last 4 years of school, though, I spent in what used to be the BOCES special ed program in Hornell. And there were a lot of things that happened there that shouldn't have. My hope is that by making people aware of things they may not know about, that this won't have to happen to somebody else. First of all, the special ed program a while back was moved from Hornell BOCES down to the high school and intermediate school. As I said though, when I was in BOCES, when I was in school, it was all up at BOCES. And I was in the special ed program from 82 to 86. One of the first things we're going to discuss is what some of the kids there were exposed to. Now, in the special ed program, many of the kids there are emotionally disturbed or they have other mental illnesses, but there's a lot of them that you could say can learn like anyone else and live very normal lives. Like me, for instance. And we had a lot of the Down syndrome kids up at BOCES too. Some of them, even though they were like 18, they had the mentality of a 5-year-old. We need special education programs to help these people. But I know at BOCES, a lot of those kids saw things they shouldn't have. I think Willow wants to get down. Want to get down, Willow? Yeah. One of those things was videos. Now, up at BOCES, the kids who did good all week, never got in trouble, did their work, they had a reward for them at the end of the week, and that was to be able to watch a video. Which seems like a good idea, but the teachers were not picky at all about the videos they showed those kids. We saw videos like Scared Straight, the original 1978 version. We saw Firestarter. We saw Friday the 13th Part 3. We saw 16 Candles, which were quite popular back in the 80s. Now, some of the kids there, like me, we had HBO at home, and we were used to seeing movies like that. But you wouldn't show a movie like that to a 5-year-old. The thing is, there were many Down syndrome kids there with the mentality of a 5-year-old. And they were seeing these horror movies, sex comedies, prison movies where the language was very brutal, the violence was very graphic, and yeah, there were a lot of nude scenes. I even said that to some of the teachers. I mean, look what you're exposing these kids to. They just told me, if you don't like it, don't watch it. I don't know how many of those kids may have suffered some kind of mental defect as a result of seeing things that their mind just couldn't handle. They should have been a lot more choosy about what they showed to them, but they weren't. Part of the corruption process up at 80's was we had classrooms like the one I was in, where, believe it or not, and to a lot of you parents this is going to sound very shocking, we did absolutely nothing. My teacher, he told me almost from day one, you know, you're not going to graduate, you're not going to have a diploma, you're not going to have anything to show that you were even here for 4 years. So you might as well just go out and get a job. In BOCES, if you're in the special ed program, you could stay there till you were 21 if you wanted to. I stayed till I was 20, 86. How many of you parents would want someone telling your kids that? Would you want your teacher to say, just drop out of school and go get a job? Well, that's what I heard, and every other kid in the classroom did. And in that classroom, we never had any type of constructive activities, educational activities of any kind. We didn't have the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. You know what we did up there? We played video games. Back in the 80's is when the Atari was very popular, so our teacher brought in an Atari, and you'd walk in there and most of the kids would just be sitting around the TV set playing Atari all day. Sometimes we just watch TV. There'd, I don't know, usually be a soap opera on or something a lot of the kids wanted to watch. But we didn't work. We didn't do anything constructive. Oh, I had school books up there, and you know, I tried to get something out of it. I tried to learn, but like one day I did a page of math, and my teacher wouldn't even bother correcting it. He says, this is boring, I don't want to do this. So even if we did work up there, it never got corrected. We didn't get graded, we didn't get nothing. After a while, I kind of got disgusted. I was like, what's the sense of doing this work? Trying to do anything when teacher doesn't even look at it. So pretty soon I just started doing what the other kids did. Played video games. We had a foosball table in the classroom. I played that. We had some books in there we could look at. We used to get magazines in there, like if any of you remember Mad magazine, where they do comical things about I don't know, movies and stuff like that. I mean, we never did anything educational. Sometimes we played board games. Some of us liked to draw. We just drew pictures, but that was about it. As you can guess, my mother was furious about this. And she went up to BOCES and talked with the head staff at times. And when my teacher came back into the classroom, and this is the part that's going to be very hard to believe, he actually talked to me like he'd say, "You fucking jerk, you stupid asshole." I'm sick and tired of listening to your mom. Why don't you just drop out of school and get a job? And I tell him, my mother wants me to get an education. She wants me to learn. She wants me to be able to graduate and have something to have a diploma, something to show that I've been here. And he'd just say, well, you're not going to graduate. You're not going to do anything. You're just a fucking jerk. Why don't you just go out and get a job? And his teacher's aide was just as mouthy. I mean, parents, how many of you that are parents would want someone telling your kid that? And how many of you parents would want your teacher talking to your kid like Eddie Murphy? I heard stuff like that every day. And he had a temper on him. In fact, one time, my mother went up there and had a little talk with the head honchos, and they finally told my teacher that he had to make some changes. When he came back to the classroom, he was furious. He flipped the foosball table over and smashed it. Boy, did he ever call me ill. Enough this and enough that. I had to hear that half the day. When me and my mother would talk with the Hornell Handicap Committee, we usually had to meet with them every couple months. We'd tell them what was going on, but nobody listened. Nobody cared. One counselor up at BOCES told me, there's nothing they can do. Nothing they can do? Teachers using language worse than a comedian doing an uncensored comedy act. Classrooms where there's no educational activity at all. All the kids do is watch TV, play videos, play board games, play foosball. Nothing more, nothing less. Something is seriously wrong. Now, I know after I left BOCES and eventually the special ed program was moved, that they had made some changes in it, but whether they've changed this problem or not, I honestly don't know. Now, I'm not saying all the classrooms up there were like that. There were some where the kids learned, had activities, educational activities. When I was 20, I got disgusted. Finally, I said, that's it, I'm out of here. I had nothing to gain by staying and nothing to lose by leaving. And they say when you don't have a diploma, you start off with 2 strikes against you. That's the way it was for me. Some of the kids up there, they were allowed to graduate and all that. When my friend Brenda showed me pictures from her graduation party and her diploma and everything she got, I'd like to just walk up to my teacher, his name was Mr. Moore, and just bust him right in the jaw. He wasted 4 years of my life. The good part that came out of BOCES for me was I learned to work. Some of the kids, they were in what they called the work experience program. We were janitors down at the Hornell Intermediate School and High School. So I feel like I accomplished something there. And through the people up in Albany, I did receive a certificate stating that I was a graduate. So anytime I've tried to apply for work or where I needed a diploma, I'd show that to them and it passed. But it just wasn't the same. I didn't get the chance to stand up and graduate like everybody else did. Somebody needs to to find these classrooms, to find how what's happening to these special ed kids, You know, I was one of the lucky ones. Even after that, you know, I became a DJ, a landscaper. I do some other odd jobs, salvage work, you know, a little bit of everything. And I own a house that me and Deidre now live in. And I'm in good health. So, like I said, I was lucky. There are a lot of the kids in the special ed program that weren't so lucky. You know, I see some of them now, they have no jobs, no future. I hate to say it, but there's some that will be spending the rest of their lives in institutions. Not because they were stupid or dumb or anything, it's just because they weren't given the chance to learn. Every kid has the right to learn. There's not a person in the United States that should be denied that. Corruption like this has got to be dealt with, and we need to put a stop to it. So parents, I know if your kids are telling you things like this are happening, you might find it hard to believe, but believe them. I can tell you from experience it does happen. I could go on about the corruption I saw at the Hornell for all night probably. But just to make a couple more quick notes. There was an incident where one of those Down syndrome girls, she was very obese. She couldn't walk too fast, and we were on a field trip. And part of the field trip involved hiking up a hill. You know, she couldn't walk up that quick, and the teacher came down. I was talking to her, not my teacher, there was another teacher there. But they all had the same attitude. You know, she had trouble breathing. You know, she couldn't even talk, as a matter of fact, but she was pointing to her throat like this, trying to tell the teacher she couldn't breathe. And the teacher just looks at her and goes, "I'm not taking none of your shit. You got to get up there and walk." You know, parents, would you want your kids hearing that, being treated that way? If they had a disability, that they couldn't do something, would you want the teacher swearing at them for it, trying to force them to do something they're not physically or mentally capable of doing? This has got to stop. You know, I don't know how far this has gone in other schools, but when I was in BOCES, if me and my teacher were arguing, like, you know, if my mom had went up and complained, he'd come up to me and he'd actually push me down on the ground. I mean, no teacher has the right to do that. There's been cases where the other special ed kids have been physically abused in different ways, both mentally and physically. When's this gonna stop? When? To all of you that are special ed teachers, I say to you, if you see something like this going on in your school, it's your duty, your obligation to report it so it can be stopped. No kid should have to go through what I went through. And the parents of special ed kids, I say to you, if your kids are telling you these things are happening, they may sound hard to believe. Part of the problem in my case was my mother really wouldn't believe me. Please believe them. Don't make them go through what I did. Help them get a good education. And if there are bad teachers up there, they gotta be weeded out. Now, not all special ed teachers are like that, you know. There were some good teachers up at Posey's who did good jobs. But some of these teachers, you know, the ones that make the rest look bad, they have got to be removed. You know, if they have attitudes like Mr. Knorr did, then they have no business teaching and working with kids. You know, some of those teachers up there, I could tell, you know, they weren't, I guess what you call people persons. They didn't like working with other people. They were kind of loners in a way, you know. Somebody like that has no business teaching. We need teachers that have patience, that understand how to work with special ed kids, and are willing to work with them. Not ones that are going to tell them, you're a fucking jerk, you're not going to be allowed to graduate, so just go out and get a job. Think about it. Think about all the kids who went through what I did. Let's destroy this cycle before it goes any further. You know, another problem in school, and this isn't just with special ed kids, this is with everyone. It's bullying and teasing. I'm glad to see programs like the WWE making a stand against bullies. And we have other anti-bullying programs now. But you know, let's discuss worst case scenarios. There have been, in the last 20 years, several school shootings, I'm sorry to say. Kids and teachers both have been injured and killed. And then a while back I was watching a news article where they were discussing the problems that kids face in school today that could lead to school shootings. And one of those problems they mentioned was being picked on. And they just said, well, everybody gets picked on. Well, that was a very ignorant and foolish thing to say. The truth is, very few and far in between ever get unmercifully and constantly teased and bullied. And it's those few that get that treatment that the teachers have got to, you know, start listening to them more. They've got to be more patient with them, and they've got to be willing to work with them more. It's too often what happens when the kids go to a teacher or principal and they try to tell them, they just said, oh, don't act like a crybaby, don't be tattling, we don't want to hear it, we don't care. Well, you know, it's the teachers and principals who say things like that that are one of the main reasons for school shootings. Anybody can only be pushed so far. And these few kids that do get the constant unmerciful teasing, sooner or later they're going to reach their breaking point, and somebody is going to get hurt or killed. And until teachers and other school officials wake up and realize that being picked on is the #1 cause of school shootings and violence in schools, the problem is never going to get better. Because every time you say, a teacher says to a kid, you know, I'm tired of hearing you complain, I don't want to hear it no more. Basically what you're doing is throwing that kid to the wolves. One of these days, you know, they're either going to get killed themselves or they're going to get killed. And that's just the way it is. It happens all the time. too often, the people who do get unmercifully teased are the ones that are just different. Not bad, they're just different. They could be heavy set, they could be slow, they could be gay or lesbian, or unfortunately they can be Down syndrome. And until teachers, are willing to listen, to take that extra time, to be patient, to work with those kids who get the unmerciful treatment, the problem of school shootings is never going to stop. Maybe everybody gets called a name occasionally, but look at the facts. Very few ever get unmercifully teased. Very few. Well, I hope all of you that have heard this tonight will think very seriously about it. Especially those of you who have these kids who have special needs that do get mercifully teased. Think about it very carefully. The problem has got to be changed. People have got to be willing to deal both with the kids that are doing the teasing and with the corrupt teachers that are mistreating kids. And both are a very big problem and of equal importance. Well, I guess that's it for tonight. Join me tomorrow. Willow will be back here too. And we'll do some more talking, and I hope you will write to me. I'd really like to hear your opinion on these stories and subjects. I'd really like to know how you feel about these things. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So write to me, and I'll see you tomorrow.